Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to the MMA breakdown, and these are my predictions for UFC 180, Werdum versus Hunt. Obviously, this card's been hit really hard by injuries. Kane falling out, also the Diego Sanchez, Joe Lozon fight getting canceled. I think really hurts this card. It looks like we're going to end up with a really bad fight on the main card in place of that. Looks like the on Wikipedia here and also on UFC.com the bout order is all unorganized. It doesn't seem it's set yet. I'm not sure what's going to be on the pay-per-view, but it looks like Edgar Garcia versus Hector Urbina and Augusto Montano versus Chris Heatherly might be on the pay-per-view card, and that's really bad. And that wasn't going to be the case if Sanchez and Lozon were going to be on the pay-per-view card, or at least one of those fights, would have been on the prelims. But I can't blame the UFC too much here. I've been very critical of a lot of the cards this past year. But I was really excited for this card. I still think Ellenberger versus Gastelum and Lamas and Bermudez, I think those are great fights, great matchups. And even the finale fights from Tough Latin America, which I did watch and I thought it was really fantastic. Really exceeded my expectations. I thought it was just going to be another standard run-of-the-mill tough with really low-level guys. And we'll see how they do in the UFC, but I thought they fought really hard and seemed fairly talented, at least more so than I expected. But looking forward to the finale fights there. But hopefully Werdum and Hunt just put on a great fight, and we're not left thinking about what this card could have been with Velasquez. And you have to really feel for the guy. I mean, obviously he's the champion, but could just be talked about in that same class with John Jones and Anderson Silva as one of the very few, one of the select few best fighters ever in the sport, and he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I really hope he competes again and he can, really round out his career, being a lot more guys. But he's just suffered so many injuries, and you have to wonder if he can ever, first of all, if he can ever come back and compete again. And if he does, can he still be as dominant? And, God forbid, but I wouldn't be surprised if, he never came back. I don't think that's likely, but it wouldn't surprise me just because, the guy is not young and he's already suffered so many injuries. But anyways, let's run through the card. On the prelim card, we have a bunch of contestants from the show facing off, and a couple of fights getting into the main card. I already mentioned Garcia, Urbina, and Montano and Heatherly. A couple of newcomers that not looking forward to. But let's get to it. I'll try to keep it quick. And yeah. All right. Starting off at featherweight, Gabriel Mowgli Benitez versus Humberto Brown. Contestants from the show. Mowgli Benitez. He had a nice win over Diego Rivas, who just picked up a win last weekend in Uberlandia over Rodolfo Rubio. Was able to get the submission win there. I don't remember much of the fight up to that point. He might have even been losing. And I haven't seen his fight yet with finalist Leonardo Chaime Morales. The episode hasn't even been made available yet. But taking on Humberto Brown, who looked pretty bad, got finished real easily by the other finalist, Yair Rodriguez, who I think was by far the best fighter on the show in both weight classes. But I'm going to go with Benitez, just because he was able to win a fight and finish a fight. And Humberto Brown got dominated pretty badly. So I'll go with Benitez, but obviously don't know much about these guys. Only saw their fights on Tough, which isn't much to go off of. And, of course I could be wrong, but I'll go with Benitez. Next up at bantamweight, Marco Psycho Beltran versus Marlon Chito Vera. Marco Beltran won his first fight against Guido Cannetti, but looked a lot worse than Cannetti. Really only won that fight because of an illegal kick. It had a point deducted. The round was close. The first round, Beltran, he got knocked down, got hit with a lot of big shots and got taken down. And then midway through that first round, got hit with an illegal kick. They stopped the action. When they resumed the fight, he was able to take Cannetti's back for the rest of the round. So that round was pretty close. Could have given it to Beltran, and I think 2 judges did. And because of the point deduction, that gave him a 10-8 round in a round that was very close. So that's why he won that round. In the second round, he clearly lost it again. I think got dropped a few times and taken down. So won the fight but didn't come out looking too good. And then in his semifinal fight against finalist Jose Teco Quinonez, just did not look good at all. Looked very very inexperienced on the feet, uncomfortable, and got out wrestled and out grappled as well. And that's supposed to be his area of that's supposed to be his specialties, grappling. But he got out grappled and out wrestled in that fight. And Marlon Vera, he won his fight against Enrique Briones. He was losing that fight though. I thought was on his way to losing a pretty convincing decision. Was getting outstruck, got taken down, and just landed a Hail Mary up kick. Actually, kind of like an axe kick off his back, hit Briones with the heel of his foot from his back and knocked him out. That was really the only moment of success he had in that fight, and then had some kind of skin infection, and they didn't let him fight. So I don't really know. Both guys I don't think looked that good. We got to see more of Beltran. He landed a stiff punch on Quinonez and showed he can grapple a little bit, but I don't know. I just haven't seen too much of them. I think I'm going to go with Beltran just because Vera was getting put on his back by Briones. Beltran really isn't good on the feet, as I already mentioned. But I think with his grappling, he might be able to get it done. So I'll take Beltran. Next up at bantamweight, Enrique Briones. But on the show, they were calling him Henry, and I think his nickname is Bure, taking on Guido Ninja Cannetti. This is this is a fairly close fight, I think, pretty even. I already mentioned, talked about Guido Ninja Cannetti's fights against Marco Beltran, was looking really good. Had good aggressive striking, good forward movement. I think got some leg trip takedowns. But he got his back taken for half of that first round. And ended up losing the fight, and he didn't seem to, someone should have sat him down. He kept complaining, like in every other episode after that he was robbed, and he wasn't robbed at all. He landed an illegal kick and got a point taken away, and the round was close, so it went to the other guy, and I thought someone should have really explained that to him. He didn't seem to get it at all, but and then in his semi-final fight, he actually replaced Marlon Chito Vera, fought finalist Alejandro Diablito Perez in the finale, and came out real aggressive, very reckless, really headhunting, looking for that knockout, and ended up getting countered a few times too many and got brutally knocked out. I thought he fought very unintelligently in that fight. Wasn't a good showing for him. And Briones, on the other hand, we didn't see too much of him, but I thought he was doing really well against Vera and easily winning that fight. Took him down a few times, outstruck him. I'll go with Cannetti. I think he looked like one of the more experienced guys on the show, even though he got knocked out in his semifinal fight. I think I don't know, he just seems to be more aggressive and just kind of more crafty on the feet and with his mixing up his strikes with his takedown. So I'll take Cannetti, but I don't know, it could be close. Moving on to welterweight, two newcomers, Augusto Montano versus Chris Heatherly, and I really hope this isn't on the main card. I can't tell. It just seems like no one knows what's going on with the bout order here. But two newcomers, never heard of them, so fortunately we can move on. Next up at women's bantamweight, Jessica Ai taking on Leslie Smith. Jessica Ai, I think she's a pretty decent talent at women's bantamweight. Her fight with Sarah Kaufman was real close. I actually thought she lost it, as did a lot of other people. She has decent striking at distance. And then against Alexis Davis, I really thought she won that fight. She got taken down, I think, in the second round and put on her back for the whole round, couldn't get back up. But the other two rounds, I thought she won it on the feet. Leslie Smith had kind of a subpar performance against Sarah Kaufman in her debut. Lost a decision, didn't really get dominated, but wasn't very competitive either. Then in her last fight against Jessamine Duke, just looked fantastic. Was timing her big hooks and her big punches really well, landing on Duke. I was able to drive her back against the fence and just unreeled barrage of hooks to the body and to the head. And I think it was a body shot that finished off Duke and just went in for the kill. Looked great, great finishing combination. But I'm not convinced that she's in that same elite class. With Kaufman and Sarah McMahon, those other women below Rousey. I think Jessica Ai is closer to that level, and I think Ai is probably going to have the better range striking, the better jab, and I think she wins the decision here. I think Smith's aggression, that's going to be her biggest weapon, I think. But Jessica Ai is pretty tough, and that fight with Kaufman, she got hit with a lot of big shots, but stood her ground. So I'm going to go with Jessica Ai. And looks like some other fights here, contestants from the show that I skipped over, and we'll do those right now. It says flyweight bout right here. I guess these guys dropped from bantamweight, or they competed on the show, but contestants Freddie Serrano versus Bentley Seiler. I think his nickname was the Bolivian Doctor. Freddie Serrano, a lot of people thought he got robbed in his fight with eventual finalist Alejandro Diablito Perez. I think he's an Olympic wrestler from Chile, I believe. Colombia, actually. But I thought that fight was pretty close against Perez. Struggled on the feet a little bit, as I remember, but was pretty successful imposing his wrestling and takedown game. Was able to get Perez down a lot and hold him there for brief periods of time. And Bentley Seiler, I think it was in the first fight of the season, and got finished by Jose Teco Quinonez. I believe he got submitted. But Serrano, obviously with the Olympic wrestling background and with his performance, he looked a lot more impressive than Seiler did. So I'm going to go with Serrano. I think he wins pretty easily with his wrestling. I think this is kind of a mismatch. Another bantamweight fight, Masio Fulin taking on Alexander Torres. And Torres was not a contestant on the show. I actually have no idea who this is, but Masio Fulin fought Leonardo Chaimi Morales, the finalist, and couldn't do anything against him. Chaimi just outclassed him, leg kicked him for a round and a half, and then just decided to go upstairs with it and knocked him out with a head kick. Really impressive performance for Chaimi Morales, and Masio Fulin didn't look impressive at all. So I don't know who Alexander Torres is here, and I can't make a pick. All right, again, the bout order is all screwed up here. So we have a pair of both of the finale fights here. At featherweight, Yair Rodriguez versus Leonardo Chaimi Morales. Yair Rodriguez, I thought, just looked fantastic. Really blew me away. His fighting style, isn't a style that I would associate with, Mexican mixed martial arts. Kind of looked like a Taekwondo fighter. Very kick-heavy striking game. Threw a lot more kicks than he did punches. Really accurate with them too. A lot of spinning kicks. I think he threw some spinning wheel kicks. A lot of head kicks. Just looked very dexterous with his legs, and just really impressive. In his first fight against Humberto Brown, was beating him up on the feet. I think he pulled guard, or he ended up on the ground and locked up a reverse triangle at one point, and finished him off with a regular triangle choke. So looked very dominant, and doing stuff like that off of his back, I think, is very impressive. And I just I didn't expect that someone was getting that kind of training in Mexico. I think Mexico is pretty behind in the mixed martial arts game. I would expect most of the guys out there to be boxing oriented, but Yair Rodriguez just looked fantastic. That those submission skills off of his back with his striking game, I think he's really a special guy and a guy to pay attention to. But by far, head and shoulders better than everyone else on the show. And then in his semifinal fight against Rodolfo Rubio, got taken down early in that fight, but got back up and landed like a spinning double back fist that hurt Rubio, and then just pounced on him, finished him off. Real impressive. And Leonardo Chaimi Morales, like I said, the last episode hasn't even been released yet, but obviously we know he won. But I think other than Rodriguez, this is the number 2 guy from the show in both divisions, and definitely, obviously, at featherweight. But his fight with Masio Fulin, just another really fulin performance. Very tactical and technical. Just broke down Fulin with the leg kicks for a round and a half, and got him to... he was able to open up the head kick and knocked him out with that. And you never see a real strategic, tactical performance like that on Tough. So I thought that was really impressive. I think he has a boxing background. I think he's from Colombia as well. I can't remember. But I think this should be a pretty close competitive fight. But I think Rodriguez is just a little more aggressive, goes for the kill more. And I think he has a more diverse tools in his striking game with the kicks and the spinning attacks. So I'll go with Yair Rodriguez, but should be a close competitive fight. All right, and the other finale fight at bantamweight, Alejandro Diablito Perez taking on Jose Teco Quinonez. And I already talked about both of these guys' fights on the show, but Alejandro Perez in his fight with Freddie Serrano, couldn't fend off the takedown, but I remember him scoring points on the feet, and I thought it was a fairly close fight. But as I said, a lot of people thought Serrano won. But then in his semifinal fight against Guido Cannetti, looked fantastic. Cannetti came out real aggressive, and Perez was patient, was countering real effectively, showed great counter boxing, and just after a few times landing some counter punches, was able to knock him out brutally, and seemed to have big power and very effective with that counter striking. And Jose Teco Quinonez, in his first fight with Bentley Seiler, really pushed a high pace, was able to get him down, get the submission win. A pretty scrappy fighter, in your face on the feet, but not really, seems pretty rudimentary with his striking. And then his semifinal fight against Marco Beltran, who seemed to be a pretty limited fighter with only a ground game. On the feet, really couldn't get too much going, Quinonez, and Beltran was even able to sneak in a stiff cross there on him. Out wrestled Beltran, got him down a few times, but once he was on top on the mat, couldn't do much with it. So I think his skill level is below his aggression and his pace, which he really gets by on. And with the way Perez countered Guido Cannetti and just looked fantastic on the feet, I really think he's going to be a league above Quinonez on the feet and going to have real success there. But again, Perez struggled with the wrestling of Serrano, and Quinonez is a pretty scrappy grappler. He could have some success there, but again, Serrano is an Olympic caliber wrestler, and Quinonez is definitely not. So I'm going to take Perez here. I think he can hurt Quinonez on the feet and maybe get another knockout. So I'll go with Perez. Next up at welterweight, Edgar Garcia versus Hector Urbina. Urbina was recently on Tough 19. He lost to Cahal Pendred in the first round. That was a pretty terrible fight. Cahal Pendred, it looked just like his fights in the UFC. Just can't get much going on the feet. Try to push him up against the fence and drag him down. From what I remember, being gassed, but ended up on his back and couldn't get up. Couldn't get Pendred off of him. Has a wrestling background, I think. And Edgar Garcia, don't know anything about him, so can't make a pick here, and we can move on. All right, top 3 fights on the card. Again, really excited for these fights. I think they're great. Featherweight, Ricardo Lamas versus Dennis Bermudez. I'm taking Dennis Bermudez in this fight. I think he's really got the momentum on his side. He's looked absolutely fantastic. I think he's really grown in this long winning streak he's been on, although I do think he lost that fight to Holloway clearly. I think Holloway got robbed, but doesn't really matter. I mean, his fights with Jimmy Hedis, he's finished him, and then finishing Clay Guida in his last fight. He looked really fantastic. He used to just be all aggression. His fights with Steven Seiler and Jimmy Hedis really uses that wrestling game very well. Very aggressive with his wrestling, constantly picking guys up and slamming them. Just goes 100% forward. Exerts all of his energy. Used to be pretty rudimentary striker, really used his pace to get in guys' face, but But in his fights with Hedis and Guida really showed that he's becoming more patient, is able to pick his shots a lot more effectively. And against Guida, I thought he looked like he was just going at like 75% when Guida was coming, full steam forward, and was able to hurt Guida with some knees, get him down to the ground, and finish him off with that rear naked choke. And Ricardo Lamas, on the other hand, obviously, I think has the better resume than Bermudez. Has been in there with the top guys, Aldo. Although I thought his effort against Aldo was pretty piss poor. I think he just got stuck, couldn't get anything going on the feet, and kind of just quit. Had that real brutal win over Eric Koch, where he just got him down and pounded him out almost immediately. Struggled with Hioki a bit, but that's going back some years, and got submitted by Cub Swanson in a fight he was winning. Again, going back about 3 years. His last fight with Hakran Diaz, though, I didn't feel he made a statement. Hakran Diaz is an underrated fighter, but kept trying to take him down, pressed him up against the cage, but wasn't successful in getting him down. I don't know if he got one takedown in that fight. And on the feet, he was coming forward, but just looked like he couldn't ever reach Diaz, and Diaz was always just slightly out of range of Ricardo Lamas' strikes. So wasn't really impressed with him there. I did think he won the fight, but it was pretty even. And Bermudez just has that momentum. He can always push that extremely high pace, get in your face, and he's really the ultimate workhorse. In his first couple of fights in the UFC was, and is definitely improving and becoming more patient. Honestly, I think he can just out-wrestle Lamas, and I think that's going to be the difference, is his willingness to push the pace and engage. Lamas is a solid fighter, but never really dominates with one aspect of his game. You haven't really seen him just go out there and lay and pray a guy, or just out wrestle him for the entire fight. You haven't really seen him outstrike a guy for 3 rounds. Like his wins over Koch's able to get him down, pound him out. Against Hakran Diaz, that was a real even fight. Wasn't really able to gain an advantage there, and Bermudez is able to dominate his opponent. So I have to go with Bermudez here, and I think he's closing in on a title shot. I think Lamas has kind of had his chance to be a contender in the division, so I have to go with Dennis Bermudez. Next up at welterweight, Jake Ellenberger taking on Kelvin Gastelum. I think this is a lot more closely contested fight than people are giving it, than people are acknowledging. And I've been as critical of Ellenberger as anybody. I've been saying it in my videos for the longest time. I don't think Ellenberger's been the same guy since he lost to Martin Kampmann. And Kelvin Gastelum has the momentum on his side, obviously coming off of tough. But when he fought Rick Story, I thought he lost that fight. It was a close fight, dropped Story with a head kick at one point, but I thought he ended up losing that fight in the end. And then in his next fight, I think the UFC realized he's not ready for these top 15 guys, gave him Nicholas Musoki, and had a terrible first round against Musoki. I don't know if it was the weight cut. I think he missed weight against Story, and might have also done it against... No, he didn't... or he missed weight against Musoki by 2.5 pounds. And I think against Story, he missed weight the first time. But I don't know if it was the weight cut, but had an awful first round against Musoki. I mean, he got picked up and slammed. He got his back taken, and was able to survive that first round, come back and, win the fight with his boxing. And, Musoki couldn't have a repeat of that first round. But, Ellenberger is a much higher level fighter than Musoki, and I would say even Rick Story. Like I said, I don't think he's been the same since he lost to Martin Kampmann, got knocked out by him. You saw a real change in his style then. He used to just be, balls to the wall, all aggression, had a great blitzing attack where he would just be able to chase guys down, put them on their heels, and put his hands on them, and usually got the knockout. He was doing that to Kampmann and got caught with the knee. But his next fight with Jay Huron was very hesitant and never really let his hands go, just kind of out jabbed him. Against Rory McDonald, you saw him just sit on the end of McDonald's jab and was never willing to go for broke. And the same thing against Robbie Lawler. Lawler showed a great jab and was able to keep Ellenberger at bay. Ellenberger, I think, wobbled him at one point in the third round. Even was able to take down Robbie Lawler at one point, but Lawler was just too technical on the feet and too aggressive, ended up putting him away, I think, with a flying knee in the third round. Gastelum does not have that jab. Gastelum's a tough, kind of a prototypical boxer wrestler. Not a very athletic wrestler. I think Ellenberger might even be able to take him down and win that fight there. Ellenberger is a pretty effective wrestler when he goes for that takedown. Like I said, took down Robbie Lawler in his fight, out-wrestled Diego Sanchez. I would argue he has a better shot than Gastelum. And on the feet, Gastelum has decent hand speed, but Ellenberger, when he lets his hands go, he's the king of hand speed. His knockouts over Nate Marquardt, Jake Shields, when he just decides to go forward and let his hands go, I think he can knock out almost anyone. The fights that Ellenberger's lost to, let's be honest, Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler, both guys doing extremely well in the division right now. Those are number 2 and 3 contenders. Gastelum does not have that technical striking, that jab to keep Ellenberger away. And with his slow starts, I think this is kind of the perfect opportunity for Ellenberger to rejuvenate himself and return to old form, come out hot out of the gate and blitz Gastelum early. I think he can do it. Gastelum, I think Story dropped him in their fight, and Ellenberger is a really accurate, aggressive striker when he decides to let his hands go. I think he's going to hurt Gastelum, or I think he can just win a decision. I think he can, just be first on the feet, and I think he can also get some takedowns in there. Gastelum, I think, is still a real hot prospect, but I think Ellenberger is just a bad matchup for him right now. I don't think he's quite at that level yet. I do think he's going to be very good. I think he'll be top 10, but I have to take Ellenberger to win this fight. And if Ellenberger loses this, I mean, that's really bad. Losing to McDonald and Lawler, even doing so unimpressively, losing to a guy much farther down the rung like Gastelum, I think that would be a huge setback, and I think he would probably have to retire after that point. I mean, that'll be a long way, a long climb back to the top, but I think this is a good matchup for Ellenberger. I just don't think Gastelum has the striking skills to hang with Ellenberger on the feet, so I'll go with Ellenberger. And the main event, Fabricio Werdum versus Mark Hunt. A really good matchup, even though, Kane fell out. I thought Kane was going to win easily against Werdum. This should be a lot more competitive, I think. And it's a real close fight, I think. I'm kind of torn on it. Mark Hunt, I think, against Roy Nelson, I picked him to lose that fight, and he looked fantastic. I mean, Nelson had never really been dropped, I don't think, before. I mean, he'd been hit a few times, wobbled, but Hunt just put him out with that uppercut. I expected Hunt to be real flat-footed, and he was flat-footed at the beginning of his UFC career against, Ben Rothwell, some of those early fights. But against Nelson, had great footwork, seemed light on his feet, seemed quicker than Nelson and was able to knock him out. I think we've kind of seen Mark Hunt's limits when he fought Junior Dos Santos. A really talented striker like that. He can't just walk those guys down and knock them out. Also against Bigfoot Silva, he really struggled with Silva. Couldn't really get anything going for a while there, I think, until the third round. Ended up dropping Silva, but couldn't finish him off. And, Silva was able to hurt him at a few points. And when he gets mounted, he finds himself on his back in his opponent's mount pretty often. Silva was able to do that. Struve was able to do that. But he's been able to get out of those positions, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, Werdum, if he can get in mount or get him on the ground, that's a different class of ground fighter. But, Werdum was able to take Nelson's back when he fought Roy Nelson, and Nelson immediately popped out, got back to his feet. So I don't know that I agree with the argument that this is over if it touches the ground, if Werdum gets on top. Also against Travis Brown, I think Werdum was able to get on top of him at one point and couldn't hold him there. Brown got back up pretty quickly. But that fight against Travis Brown, I was really impressed with Werdum. I also picked him to lose that fight and just put on 5 rounds of really impressive striking. Mixes his punches and kicks very well, and hurt Brown really early on, and Brown can never recover. Early on, I really think Hunt has the big advantage there. Obviously, being the much smaller or much shorter fighter, I think that's really gonna hinder Werdum in trying to get the fight to the ground or even getting in the tie clinch like he likes to do. Was real effective with that against Roy Nelson. I don't think he wants to be standing in front of Hunt early on. Hunt has, with those uppercuts and those big heavy shots, I think Hunt could, has a good chance of putting him out early. Also being much shorter, I think it's going to be hard for Werdum to get in on his shot, get Hunt down to the ground. So really those first couple rounds, I think Werdum has to focus on staying out of range and striking from distance. What was I was going to make another point here. Against when he fought Big Nog, Fabrizio Werdum, that was a pretty even striking contest. I think it went around and I think into the second round a little bit, but that was pretty even on the feet. Werdum wasn't really able to get a big advantage there. I think he made a lot of improvements in his fight with Travis Brown, but I really think Werdum needs to stretch this out into the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds and take it there where Hunt, Hunt can fade a little bit, not terribly so. I mean, against Stefan Struve, I think got that knockout in the 3rd round. Against Silva, even getting hurt and mounted late in that fight, was able to survive to the end. But I think Werdum just will have the deeper gas tank and will be able to start working that great creative striking he did against Brown late in the fight. So I'm going to go with Werdum. I just think he has the deeper gas tank and we'll be able to get this into the later rounds. But I think it's really close, and I think Mark Hunt definitely has a good shot in those first couple of rounds. To hurt him, I think it should really be a great fight. But I'm going to go with Werdum. I'm going to give him a slight edge here. Alright guys, well those are my predictions for UFC 180. Werdum versus Hunt. Looks like I wasn't able to make this video too much shorter than they usually are. Always working on that. But thanks for watching, guys. I've been on a bit of a roll. I picked the Rockhold Bisping fight perfectly. I said Rockhold by early second round submission. I said he would hurt Bisping on the feet and submit him. got that right. I also picked St. Preux over Shogun Hua. Check the videos if you don't believe me. But thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be real pressed for time in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to try to get my Edgar versus Swanson and also my Hendricks versus Lawler picks out soon. So keep an eye out for those guys. But thank you. Please like the video, comment, challenge me on any of my picks, subscribe. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.